Hi, Steve Gamache with a Chef Knives to Go quick look product review on the Konosuke Fujiyama white number 1 Gyuto 210mm knife. This line of knives has a core steel of Shirogami or white paper number 1 carbon steel. Heat treat at about 61 or a little over Rockwell. The construction is a reactive cladding over the top of that core steel, so it's a softer reactive cladding. You can see the core steel exposed at the edge. It's quite a large amount compared to some knives because it's very, very thin at the edge, so they grind this quite thin, which exposes more of the core steel. So this is a complete reactive blade. There's no stainless on this. You can see nice embossed kanji and also white number 1 indicator on it. The weight on this blade is 6.1 ounces, 172 grams. Part of that weight is the blade itself. Has a little bit of substantial feel to it. It's not thick by any means, but it's not as skinny as a full-on laser. And then the handle's a little bit heavier as well. And that just kind of, this is going to be a heavier knife than, let's say, an HH or an HD from Konosuke. It's a different style of blade. The length of this blade is a little undersized. It's 200 millimeters on the edge, slightly under 8 inches, and then it's 14 inches overall. The spine at the base is 2.5 millimeters. A beautifully rounded spine, I might add, and pretty much maintains a lot of that till you get to a real superb distal taper towards the tip for a nice thin tip. And then the height at this is 46.2 here at the heel, which is a fair amount taller actually than the 210s and the HD HH series. So it's got a little more height to the blade. The handle, as we mentioned, is an octagonal. It's an ebony handle with a buffalo horn ferrule, and the handle circumference right here at the junction is about 2 7/8, slightly under the standard 3 inches a lot of knives, but it fits this knife beautifully. The handles on these actually are a little bit longer than some, so it's got a little bit longer handle than you'll see on some other knives for the same size of blade, just a little characteristic. The balance point of that heavier handle being longer and heavier brings that balance point to right about here. So it's slightly behind a pinch grip on this blade because ebony is a fairly heavy wood. The fit and finish on this blade is just superb, as every Fujiyama blade I've ever held in my hand. So it's got great relief and rounding of the spine, and the neck choil is just superbly done. It's a supremely comfortable blade. It's just a beautifully made blade with no real visible flaws that I can detect. It's got a nice gentle profile to it. This is not a real long blade, so you're not going to get a big old long flat spot on this, but it's just got a good well-rounded profile, and these are quite thin at the edge, so they thin out extremely nicely right at the edge. So they've got some substantial feel towards the spine, but they've got a very, very thin edge for very high performance. These are beautiful performing blades. So if you're interested in a real serious piece of high-end craftsmanship, if you're interested in all carbon, these are just beautiful blades. So there you have and I should say also the edge. I'll give it a 5 out of 10 out of the box. It's a decent edge, but you can get such a nice edge on these quickly with that great carbon steel on the core. The other thing I would like to add, as long as I'm at it, is that I think there's a little bit of misconception about the grind on these versus the blue line, the blue number 2s. And a lot of people think the grind starts right here where this mark is, but that's really more of a sanding mark. The grind actually starts right about here. You can kind of see it in the light, if we can kind of catch that. So the grind itself starts right about there. I can feel it with my fingers, not down there. So that's about the same place that it starts on the blue series. So I don't think these are ground that much different. It starts fairly high up the blade up here and then goes down to the edge. It doesn't start way down there. So I think people have a misconception until they hold them in their hand. So anyway, last thing I wanted to say about it. So there you have just a beautiful blade, great performing blade. The Konosuke Fujiyama white number 1 Gyuto 210mm.